Is there something that you'd like to be more of in your life? Are you trying to become something bigger, badder, and better than you've been? Well, on today's show, me and my guests are going to have an entire conversation about how you can actually become who you want to be in record time. Let's do it. Your mind is a beautiful thing, but if left unattended, it can get ugly real quick. If you're not constantly curating the content your mind consumes on a daily basis, then your surroundings will dictate your daily thoughts, habits, behaviors, and actions. This show has only one goal: to leave your mind more beautiful than it was when you arrived. Welcome to the Beautiful Mind Show. Welcome to today's Beautiful Mind Show. I'm your host, Jason Everett. Thanks so much for sticking around with me. We were just chatting before the show about all kinds of things of how do you become the next version of yourself that you want to become. And on the show today, I've got a friend who has been working with me now, I don't know, it's been a long time, but not only has become a great friend, but also has become a mentor and part of our programs and helps other people to become better versions of themselves. Please welcome to the show, Lindsay Lowe. What's going on, Lindsay?
Hey, how's it going?
So good. As always, super good to have you on the Beautiful Mind Show. You're always fun, action-packed, and you have the best smile. So if that doesn't
Oh,
say
thank you.
all the good things, come on, man. That's all I'm saying. So Lindsay, first of all, I know you have a salon in Manhattan, Kansas. But
Yes.
and you've been in our academy. How long have we known each other? It's been since
Gosh,
2017. Is that when it
it
was?
has. Yep. Yep.
Since Symposium, right? Since the Symposium.
It
So
has.
it's been a hot minute. 2017. We've been through a pandemic together. We've been
Yeah.
through tons of cities together, and it's
Yeah.
fun to hang out with you every time. It's always fun to just hang out and chat. Before the show started, we were talking about exploration of personal development and becoming better versions of ourselves and bigger versions of ourselves. And you are one of the mentors for something we do called the Little Voice Mastery Program.
Mhm.
If you guys don't know, Blair Singer, a friend of ours, wrote a book called Little Voice Mastery: How to Win the War Between Your Ears in 30 Seconds or Less and Have an Extraordinary Life. Super long title, really good book. If you've read the book, do me a favor and say I have in the chat. And Lindsay and I not only have been through Little Voice Mastery, but have also now take people through Little Voice Mastery. And one of the things that happens is that sometimes you take people through that course and you start to have some insights. And I was asking Lindsay, I said, what have been some insights that you've been having about taking people through, and what are some discoveries? So I'd like to talk about that. If you're down to talk about that, guys, do me a favor and say down in the chat. But Lindsay, what has been some of your discoveries? You're taking people through Little Voice Mastery that you're like, man, that hits you upside the head with a big giant personal development rock.
Totally. Totally. I mean, there's just so many things. Like, it really is such an honor to be able to walk through that with people just because I know how impactful it was in my own life and
Yeah.
seeing how impactful it is in everybody else's life. And like you said, it's amazing how, facilitating that, you get to have so many amazing learns. And probably one of the biggest standout things lately has been just, I think we're all familiar with the I am statement. Whatever you say after I am, you
Mm,
are or you become. And so sometimes people
mm,
will say, like, I'm bad at math, and then they'll do everything, not
right.
even consciously realizing that they're doing it to prove themselves right, that they're bad at math.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, because you
sometimes,
start proving yourself right. I think that's the key statement, right? Is we've done
yeah,
that. And I
yep.
want to say this because it just came up literally the other day, and it like crushed my soul, Lindsay. My
Mhm,
son was doing something and he got in trouble, and he's like,
mhm,
God, I'm just so stupid. And I was like,
mhm.
oh, like, please don't
That is
say that about
painful.
yourself, right? He was like, I'm
Yes.
just stupid, Dad. And I was like, oh no,
Mhm.
because I've never called him stupid. I would never do that. But
Right.
somewhere in his mind, he got that idea. And to your point, you become what you say you are. And like that,
Mhm.
and as adults, we do that, right?
Totally. Totally.
Mm,
And really, either, you work to become that or you collect evidence that you are that thing. So either
mhm.
way, then that's, in my opinion,
Yeah.
where you start to get way down and heavy.
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and so I just think, one of the most powerful things, I was walking through an experience with somebody, and they just couldn't really see themselves becoming who they wanted to become. And I think
Mm,
we can all relate to that. Like, I've been
yeah.
in that position before, where you're like, okay, I do want to, maybe be this wealthy person or this healthy person or whatever it is, but I can't quite, when I say I am this, I can't quite
You
see the
can't
end of
own
it.
it, or like it
Yeah,
doesn't feel like it's even possible for you.
totally. Yeah. And
Mm,
so, one of the most powerful things that came out of that was, how can you start to kind of trick your little voice or your mind to be able to see that it's possible?
yeah.
And, one of the ways I think that works is I am wealthy and I'm proving it to the world. So just adding that I am proving it to the world or I'm proving it to myself or whatever kind of almost gives you that permission to then step into that role. Does
Right.
that
It
make
gives
sense?
you that like, yeah, well, there's another way that I've heard that before, Lindsay, that I think is really
Mhm.
helpful. Like I love how you said it. And what
Mhm.
helped me for a long time was Robert Kiyosaki, when I was hanging out with him one time in a workshop, he was saying, it's not a lie if you just haven't done it yet. Right. And I
Yeah.
thought that was really fascinating because I think that you have to, when you're like, oh, I'm rich or I'm healthy, like healthy is the easy one
Mhm.
because most people are like, I'd like to be in better shape. So you're like,
Yes.
I want to see myself in better shape. When you're like, I'm healthy, you're like, not really. You ate cake yesterday, like blah, blah,
Yeah.
whatever the thing is, right?
Mhm.
And it robs you of like your ability to stand in that present moment and actually be
Mhm.
that because you don't feel like you're that. And it could be
Right.
wealth, it could be I'm married to the love of my life, and you're like, but I don't even
Mhm.
know a guy or a girl, whatever it
Mhm.
is, and you're like, I'm
Right.
trying to figure it out. And I
Yeah.
think to your point is that the ability to say it just hasn't happened yet,
Mhm.
or I am proving it to myself or to the
Yeah.
world or to whatever.
Mhm.
It like
Mhm.
it backs it off like that 1 degree that
Mhm.
allows you to like get your mind to go, okay, well, I'm working on it. I'm striving for that. I'm
Mhm.
attempting
Mhm.
to get there in my
Right.
process, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And really even like the
Good
proving
point.
now that I'm thinking about that, like it's almost just you're allowing yourself the opportunity to become that, like
Yes.
proving
Permission.
feels more, yep, like you're going to beat it into yourself, but like allowing yourself to become it kind of sounds more freeing. It's almost like when you're trying to
Yeah.
lose weight versus like if you want to release it. There's a
Mm.
totally different mind
Mm.
shift. And I think that your words really do
Releasing the weight. I love that.
your life.
I
Yeah,
don't think I've heard that. So thank you for giving me that gift of releasing the weight back to the universe. Feel free to keep that.
definitely.
Feel free. You just keep that weight over
Exactly.
there.
Exactly. It was
Yeah.
never yours to keep. So why are you losing it? So if you just release it, it's like you
Well,
can release so many different things.
when you think about that is like what, and it is like we do a lot of battle in our minds with the words that we use. And I think that's a great
Mhm.
example of just talking about what is good to lose in your life. Like, I'll give you a stupid example. I lost my damn boat keys the other day. I lost them. And like I had friends waiting to go out on the lake and I could not find the boat keys. And I had to tell not only my friends, but also their children that we can't go out on the boat. Now, I lost my boat keys. Like, this is stupid. I freaking lost my boat keys.
Yeah.
That sucks when you lose something. It would suck if
Right.
you lost playing poker. It would suck if you lost money. It would suck if you lost all these things. And then you go, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to look forward to losing weight.
Mhm. Mhm.
Who wants
Mhm.
to lose anything? But
Right.
mentally, we've conditioned ourselves to say, I'm going to lose something. But every other part of your life, you don't want to
Mhm.
lose things. That's a bad thing when you lose
Mhm.
things.
Mhm. Totally. And it's almost even like if you've ever like lost or released a former version of yourself, and
Mhm.
sometimes you show up and somebody still expects that you still own that or that you haven't lost
Yeah.
it or you haven't released it,
Yeah,
and
you
so they
still make
expect
really negative sarcastic jokes, or you still poke
right.
fun at people when you shouldn't, that you didn't grow out of, or whatever the thing is.
Exactly, exactly. I
Mhm.
think we've all, at least had a moment in our life that we're not super proud of that, if you maybe ran into a person or came back to a time, maybe it was like middle school, you said something to somebody you wish you wouldn't have, or whatever it was for you. Like if somebody still
Yeah,
held you kind of in that jail,
right.
then you would continue to stay that person, or be that person. But when you
Mhm.
release that, so sometimes you even have to release different parts of who you are to become whoever it is that you're trying to become. And
Well, and I think to your point, are you losing it or are you releasing it? Are you gifting it back? I mean, I know that in Little Voice Master, we do some things, exercise where you kind of like mentally just release it and you just give it back to the universe. It's like, I'm just sending that thought back out there. I'm just not going to
yeah,
keep that in my world. I'm just going to allow that one to go back where it came from and let it dissipate. It would be the way to use that, right? it would be to
Totally.
dissipate it and just release that thought back out there. And I think
Yeah.
so many times we take ownership of things that are not ours, that
Mhm.
somebody else gave us. And again, Little Voice Mastery is really big on that, of like,
Mhm.
was that something that you wanted to put there? Did somebody else put it there? Who else's thoughts contributed to that thought?
Mhm.
Because it might have
Mhm.
been an experience. It might have been something that like it happened to you and you were like, that was a bad experience. Therefore, I created this thought. And then I
Mhm.
reinforced that thought by other experiences that had nothing to do with it. And then somebody else said something to me one time, and then that reinforced that thought. Now I've got
Mhm.
this cement, concrete, heavy thought.
Mhm.
And sometimes, again, in Little Voice Mastery, as a mentor, Lindsay, you ask them a
Mhm.
question and they're like, why does this thought exist in my brain, weigh 500 pounds, and feels like a 500-pound bowling ball or something, right?
Totally.
And you release that and get rid of it. And all of a sudden, you're like, why did I carried that thought around for the last 15 years? I didn't
Mhm.
even realize it was weighing me down like that.
Mhm. Mhm.
I mean, I
And
don't know.
totally,
Maybe we're
like,
getting too deep for people. If this is too deep, say too deep. If you think we're just fine, do me a favor and say keep going in the chat. I want to make sure we're not losing people here.
yeah. And sometimes like it's well-meaning stuff that is put into your subconscious, on
Totally.
accident. Like, you know, like when you're a kid and you see a puddle, you just go run and you jump in it. You're not like, oh, should I get my clothes wet or should I not get my clothes
Yeah, I
wet? No,
might
you
ruin
just
my
go
clothes. My
jump.
mom might get mad. Then I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
spend extra time in the dryer. Blah 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 blah. Right?
Yeah.
All of that
No,
stuff.
you don't care. You just haul butt down there, jump in the puddle, have the time of your life, and then your mom comes out and is like, "What are you doing? We were going to
Right.
church. We were going to
Right.
Aunt Susie's, whatever." And then you're like,
Oh.
"Oh gosh, I ruined
Oh
everything that
yeah.
I do with Aunt Susie's," and you just start
Right.
putting these crazy thoughts in your head, and it is crazy how cement like they can become, and how
Mm-hmm,
when you
mm-hmm.
start to really kind of examine, like, do I mean, maybe I do want to jump in a puddle. I don't know. I don't even know anymore because
Because now I've got all these thoughts about it that may or may not
exactly,
be good.
exactly. But
Completely.
so it's crazy when you start to release some of those, then who you can become, and really you can start to have some more powerful I am statements, and
I
start
love
to
it.
realize, like, I don't need to argue with myself. Like, I do know, there's still some things where you're like, do I not? I don't know if I want to jump in a puddle, you know.
Completely. Yeah, but
But
you have a different gift. You have the gift of foresight can be good and bad. Let's do this. I want to talk about that, and I want to talk about something called harmful acts, because that's kind of in the vein we're talking about
Mm,
right now. Something called
totally.
harmful acts. We'll tell you what that means when we come back. If you want to find out about it, do me a favor and say harmful acts in the chat. It's probably not what you're thinking, so stick around and we'll talk about it. Hang tight. Would you like to have an even more beautiful mind? Well, we'd like you to have one, and we actually created a 7-day Beautiful Minds Challenge, which is a little bit of a choose your own adventure challenge for just 7 days, and I really think you can do anything for 7 days. It's definitely not easy, but it will be simple for you to get access to it. All you have to do is comment anywhere on this video or send me a message on social media that says 7-day, and I'll send you immediate access to not only our Beautiful Minds Facebook group, but also our Beautiful Minds Challenge, where you can go through 3 different areas: your mental health, your emotional health, and your physical health, and get challenges in each of those areas that'll help you get a handle on each of those areas inside your life to give you more control over what you want to do every single day. So do me a favor, comment 7-day or send me a message on any social media, and I'll make sure I give you access to our exclusive community group as well as access to the challenge. Thanks so much, and now back to the show. Welcome back. I'm chatting with Lindsay Lowe from Platinum & Company in Manhattan, Kansas, who's also one of our High Performance Salon Academy mentors, who's just a rock star. Been working together for years and years, and we're chatting about how do you grow out of the person you've been, grow into the person you become, and what stops you from doing that, right? If you want to become better in your life, do me a favor and comment better in the chat. And Lindsay, I kind of teased it right before we went to break. I was talking about this idea of something called harmful acts. Harmful acts are something kind of interesting. Do you want to talk about harmful acts for a second, Lindsay? Or you want me to talk about it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, either way is great. So like
Go
a
for it.
harmful act, can sometimes it's on purpose. Most of the time it's not, or sometimes there's like well-meaning behind it. So if you've ever, I mean, even if you've ever been in a grocery store and you've avoided somebody, you've thought in the back of your mind, like, oh God,
I'm not going down the
yep,
cereal aisle today because that person's down there.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
never. I've
And
never
maybe
done
it's
that.
because the person who is trying to sell you some really smelly good stuff to evaporate into your house, you've dodged on Messenger for the fourth time that week, and then you
You
see them,
didn't
you're like,
show up
oh,
at
they're
their
gonna know.
party where
You
they
know?
sell you things. I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
But, sometimes it's because there was a situation like, maybe we talked about earlier in middle school and you said something that you wish you wouldn't have said,
Mm,
or you would have handled things differently. And
yeah.
so really a harmful act is something that sits on your, mind that you don't even realize is eating up all that mental real estate. And when you're able to kind of clear those up, it frees you into, you can just walk by that person and say hi, you
Right.
don't
Yeah. It,
feel
it
like
just,
that
it
heaviness.
removes it, like the harmful act creates, and I've heard this term for it before. It can create something called like a yuckberry, or it just creates something
Mhm.
called a charge. Like there's different
Mhm.
terms for it. But to your point is like, if you see that person and immediately have a reaction to just
Mhm.
seeing them,
Mhm.
or hearing about something, or seeing something, this can happen too. You see somebody doing something and it reminds you of when that happened in another time, or like
Mhm.
somebody cuts in front of you at the grocery store and you're like, oh, it's just like that one time. Like, and you have this larger than life reaction. It's like it should be a normal reaction, like, hey, that was rude. Instead, you're like, what the bleepity bleep 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 bleep, and you're like,
Mhm.
what just happened to Jason? He lost his damn marbles. It's because there was a moment of charge. It's where there's an emotional outburst that's larger than expected for the given situation, right? It means you have
Totally.
some charge. It might mean that there's something called a harmful act, like we were just talking about. Loved your
Mhm.
definition on there. I would add to that definition too another thing that I've heard about it before too, which is um, a harmful act can be done something that's done with a positive intention, but it creates a
Mhm.
negative outcome. So, like if
Totally.
I said to my kids, "Don't talk to strangers," is an example I was
Mhm.
give. If I said to my kids, "Don't talk to strangers," and like, but let me just ask you guys in life, how many times do you have to talk to strangers? So, like,
Right.
if I say something like, "Hey, it's dangerous to talk to strangers. Don't ever meet somebody," and they become introverts
Mhm.
for the rest of their life, and they don't go out and meet people. I've actually done them a
Mhm.
harm by trying to do
Mhm.
them a good. That's my generic way of saying done them a harm by trying to do them good. That could be
Yeah.
seen as a harmful act,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And,
right?
like, I feel like kids are like such a great thing to look at just because they're like our science experiment all the time. We're constantly doing great things and screwing it up at the
Yeah,
same
that's
time,
that's pretty
by
much how I
doing
treat
some
my
little.
children. So thank you. Yes, that's about it.
I've done the exact same thing,
Yeah,
and
yeah. They
one
don't
of
come
my
with
kids,
manuals.
yep, exactly. One of my kids, I joke around that like somebody would keep one of them forever, and then one of them they would like bring back. So I'm like, you can talk to strangers, but you can't. No, I'm just kidding.
Right, right, right,
Um,
right.
but
I love
it
it.
is crazy, like how we do. We'll have well-meaning behind it, and some of the times it's just that we don't even know yet that that's harmful. Like,
Hmm.
and you might say something to a member on your team. You might accidentally like shame the whole group of people, when
Yeah,
it was
on
like a
accident, on
conversation.
accident.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it was a conversation
yeah.
that maybe you could have had with just one person. So a lot of the times harmful
Done
acts
it.
are usually
Yeah,
not on purpose, they
yeah.
just accidentally were harmful. And so then too, people can become passive aggressive towards each other. Like if you've accidentally done a harmful act with somebody
What?
and
What?
you
That
notice
never happens.
someone's being passive aggressive, there's
Yeah.
probably some sort of a
There's
harmful
probably,
act
yeah.
that happened, you
Yeah,
know?
they're probably triggered. They're probably experiencing something. And I think this is really the gift of like when you start working on yourself, Lindsay, whether it's through like little voice mastery work or processing or clearing or some of these other tools that we use inside our organization. And again, by the way, that's what this has been the secret weapon stuff that we haven't really had a format to talk about, to be really honest, because like we were just, Lindsay and I were talking before the show, like what level is publicly acceptable. And I would say, like, I go all the way back to my very first like job in corporate America, Lindsay. Like I worked for a pretty
Mhm,
large company that's still around today. It's called Clear
mhm,
Channel. And like Clear Channel has hundreds of offices all over the country, thousands of employees.
mhm,
And if I would have gone into my boss and said, his name is Kenton, by the way. If I'd have gone in and
mhm,
said, "Hey, Kenton," that's a very boss name, by the way.
mhm,
Kenton, I am having some issues with my little voice, and like I think I might have had some harmful acts around, cold calling in the past, and like I just feel like I need to work
mhm.
through some of these challenges. He would have been like, "And you don't have a job." I mean, literally, it would have been
Yeah.
like, "I don't know, you've lost your damn marbles." But what I
Mhm,
think is really fascinating is as I've grown into owning my own companies and doing all that stuff and like continue to grow and elevate in my own journey is that now I've realized that those are really the things that create massive change in people when you can open up and be able to have that conversation that may not be publicly accessible or publicly whatever consumable,
Right.
but it becomes literally like a secret weapon that helps you to
Mhm.
have better conversation with people.
Absolutely. And
Mhm.
I've read the book Fierce Conversations. It's
Mm,
incredible. That I think that
great
that's
book.
such a good tool for people to kind of, have some bite-sized pieces
Break
of
some
how to have
barriers.
those conversations. Exactly.
Yeah.
And how you can still be kind but be totally open and honest with each other. And you can
Mhm.
be with somebody in a conversation and you don't have to show up to be right or to make somebody else wrong. Like if you really truly can just be with somebody, that usually helps you eliminate some of those harmful acts that
Yeah.
might have accidentally happened along the way so that you guys can both feel lighter and step out into the world and do bigger, better, more amazing things and enjoy your time doing it.
Well, that's the gift, right, Lindsay? Is that the
Mhm,
gift in my mind is being able to have two people who would ordinarily start a fist fight with each other
mhm,
because they feel like they're in different positions, come together and do more good together as a team. And I think, like,
mhm,
I mean, not to take this to like the biggest global thing possible, but we live in a world right now that is becoming more and more divided. And there's plenty of people who
mhm,
say you're on this side or you're on that side. And by the
mhm,
way, as I say that, you immediately think of one party over the other. And I want to be clear, both parties are doing that crap. Okay, both
mhm,
parties, both
mhm.
parties. This is not a blameless scenario. Both parties are doing this, and just the fact that we're calling them parties automatically makes it a damn split down the middle, right? Um,
Totally.
so this entire idea is when you can remove those biases, or you can remove those
Mhm,
harmful acts, or you can remove those resentments, or those triggers, or those issues.
mhm,
All of a
mhm.
sudden, you have two people coming together to just solve a problem. Let's just
Absolutely.
solve a problem. And instead of it
Mhm,
being like, here's a way to solve it, here's another way to solve it. And I know you're now thinking about a political problem that's trying to be solved right now. I know all you guys that are watching this, you've now gone that path. But let's rewind back to like normal conversation in a day to day reality of like, how do you get an employee to operate the way that you want to? How do you have a
mhm,
better conversation with your spouse? How do you,
mhm,
like, and
mhm,
by the way, this happens at all levels. I just want to say this. This isn't like one day you solve this problem and then you never have
mhm.
those issues anymore. Little voice
Right.
mastery is like you used to have problems here, then you solve that, now you have problems here. Then you solve that,
Mhm,
now you have problems here. And then you solve that,
mhm,
and it just keeps going. And then you solve that, now you have problems here. And you just get the next layer. So where
mhm,
you might have been triggered about, maybe losing $100 would have triggered you
mhm,
before. Now all of a sudden losing $10,000 triggers you. Now losing $1 million triggers you. Now losing this. I mean,
mhm,
I keep saying losing.
mhm.
I don't know. Maybe we're back on that losing weight topic from earlier. But
Releasing.
like
No.
you elevate your level of ability to handle problems. Now all of a
Absolutely.
sudden the problem that used to be massive is not so massive, and
Mhm,
that's the new baseline for you to operate from. Yeah, and
mhm,
this is
mhm.
what mastery is about, is you just constantly keep elevating the level of problem that you're solving.
Absolutely. And,
Yeah.
it's just like any problem in your life. And I remember you said one time, I think it was you, something about, I remember the first time I was sued, or maybe it was somebody that you knew who said that. And,
Yeah.
and that sounds like a scary situation to most people. But it's almost like if you think about that, like, do you remember the first time like somebody wrote a bad review, or do you remember the first time
Right.
somebody even told you like, I don't like your smile, or I don't like like whatever it is, like it really does just kind of put things into perspective, like of where you're at in your journey, like your level of
Right.
problems, like we all have them, but having some tools that really help you walk through them and don't keep them cemented in and smashed into your body is really what releases you into that freedom.
Yeah, and just to give you some clarity, I heard somebody else say the first time they got sued for some intellectual property. I have never been sued for
Yeah.
intellectual property or any other issue. Just to give some clarity,
Yeah.
no
Thank
suits
you.
happening over here yet. I'm
No,
not inviting
no,
that into
I
my
don't want to bring
universe,
that
but
out
I'm just
either.
saying, yeah, let's not bring that in. But
Sorry.
I would just say, no, it's okay. But what I would say is that it's what's the first time you lost money, the first time you had a bad breakup, the first time you had a
Yeah.
bad partnership, and like I've had really bad partnerships in the past, in
Mhm,
life and in business. And then I've had some really good ones too. And it's like
mhm,
you kind of get to a point, and sometimes you're like, oh, I've had really bad experience with employees, or I've had really bad experiences with whatever. It could be dogs, could
mhm,
be bad experience with ice cream. It doesn't matter. It's just you could have a bad experience, and if that becomes your experience, that becomes your life, and you will never grow to who you are meant to become if you
mhm,
allow all of those things to define you. And so, Lindsay, I think this was an awesome topic for today. I feel like I could talk for like 10 more hours on the subject with you. And I don't know if you guys feel the same way. If you do me a favor and comment same. But I just think this is the topic. If you want to grow, if you want to be better as an individual, you've got to be talking about these things. You have to find people that are confident. You don't want to talk to like my old boss who said like, let's not talk about personal development, anything. You want to find a circle of people who you know, like, and trust, and you can have better conversations with and be around them more often. People like Lindsay, hopefully people like myself, and maybe you got some other people like that in your life. And by the way, if you do want to be around an amazing group of people like that, you can check out our Beautiful Minds Challenge or our Beautiful Minds Facebook group just by commenting 7-day in the chat. We'll get you the information on that and make sure that you get hooked up. Lindsay, this was super fun today. I'm really grateful to have you on. It's always fun to hang out with you, and you brought your A game today. I'm super grateful for the time. So thank you for being on today.
Thank you. I'm grateful too. I appreciate it.
Heck yeah. Right on, guys. Thanks for joining us today. Do me a favor and review this podcast or like it or tag somebody that you're like, hey, you're my BFF of personal development. Tag them in this so that they know that you know that they know that you guys are going to have some better conversations. Thanks for being on today. And as always, thanks for having you too, Lindsay. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us on today's show. If you want to get access to our 7-day Beautiful Minds Challenge, you can either comment below and just say 7-day, and I'll shoot you the information so you can get immediate access to that, or find me on any social media and just send me the message 7-day, and I'll make sure I get that out to you right away. And if you really enjoyed today's show, it would do me a huge favor if you went online, whether it was Spotify, Pandora, or iTunes, or any sort of podcast platform that you can find us on, and search for The Beautiful Mind Show, subscribe to our channel, and then make sure you give us a rating. Every time you give us a rating, it helps us get more eyeballs on our show and help more people have a more beautiful mind. Thanks again for joining us. Is there something that you'd like to be more of in your life? Are you trying to become something bigger, badder, and better than you've been? Well, on today's show, me and my guests are going to have an entire conversation about how you can actually become who you want to be in record time. Let's